Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for doing this interview. I appreciate your time. Today we have Kevin McCracken. I will let him do his introduction. He is the founder of Social Imprints, and I would love to just kind of dive in and just get you to share some information with the listeners. How can we just follow down in your footsteps? How did you get started? And just talk about entrepreneurship in general. So I'm really excited for having you today. Can you maybe just give us a quick overview of who you are and what you do? And
Sure. So I'm the co-founder of Social Imprints. We're a promotional products distributor in San Francisco. And but the more important part is we are a promotional products distributor with a mission. We hire and train at-risk adults, individuals that are marginalized in some way or another, primarily uh, returning citizens that have been impacted by the justice system, individuals that are in recovery from substance use disorder of one form or another, people that have less than a high school education, people that have been on and off public assistance and have economic barriers to their employment, as well as returning veterans from foreign conflicts, which is a unusually high unemployment category. We got started in 2008. My business partner, Jeff Scheinbein, and I previously worked at a nonprofit that was a screen printing shop, as well as we did some promotional products and trained formerly homeless and recovering addicts to screen print. So the idea was that we could take that original model and move it to a bigger business, as well as train people into higher paying professional jobs. So take the basic social enterprise model and move it out of just blue collar work. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And we hire people in our warehouse to do blue collar work as well, if that's where they're at in terms of their training and needs. But the real crux of it was to find a way to get people into higher paying professional positions that are career track. So in the process, we've grown year over year to be one of the top 2% in the promotional products industry, with around 20 million in sales last year.
congratulations.
Yeah, part of our model is to also incentivize our employees, not based on their title or length of work here, but just based on the fact that everybody contributes to the greater good at Social Imprint. So we have a profit sharing program that when an employee has been here for 9 months or more, they can apply to participate in, and we split up that profit share evenly across all the participating members. So you don't get paid more if you're a director or a C-level. It's everybody gets the same amount at the end of the year based on a formula of 15% of our net income. So this year, our participants are going to get somewhere around $12,000.
Wow.
So it's, and that can be life-changing money if you've got lingering legal bills, child support, additional things that kind of go along with the lifestyle of the individuals that we work with. And so there's a lot to be said for splitting up the equity in an equitable way. One of the things that is interesting to me is how, when we give people opportunities, how quickly they grow into them, and what it does for them in terms of both their confidence and how we've seen employees really maintain and become incredibly loyal and high output parts of what we do. I think the fact is, I challenge any business to give somebody a chance, just one person, and see how it works, whether it's a returned citizen that has been incarcerated, somebody that has had issues with homelessness or been is in recovery, and just see how it works for you. And it doesn't need to be a high risk situation. And generally speaking, my experience is you get an incredibly loyal and hardworking employee out of the deal. So that's a bit about, probably should roll in my story a little bit too. The reason this is important to me, I am personally, I've been in recovery for almost 25 years. So I've been clean and sober from both heroin and alcohol for the last 25 years. And it's kind of the cornerstone foundation, whatever you want to call it, of my life. So being given the opportunity to not only clean up my past, but carve out a future for myself through staying clean and sober has been an incredibly rewarding endeavor in my life. And it's allowed me to help a lot of other people over the years.
Congratulations on that as well.
Yeah. So, I think what's interesting about social imprints right now is we're pivoting into sort of a new frontier in the promotional products industry as far as what we're doing with our programs. We've really moved towards a sustainability model. So we're not only looking for products that are more sustainable, more longer term use, less kind of what we call landfill junk, and providing those product purchase opportunities for our clients. But beyond that, we partnered with Veritree to do a restoration project in Kenya, planting a mangrove forest there to restore the local ecology, as well as give jobs locally to tree planters. So this year, if we stay on track, we will be planting almost 50,000 trees because we're receiving some tree donations from clients, which equates to a couple hundred hours of work for local tree planters. So the more that we get our clients to participate with us, the more we can provide in Kenya as well, jobs and sustainability around their ecosystems. And I think it's a pretty new idea for promo companies.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yep.
And where does it come from? Do the clients, do you find they're asking for more sustainable product, or do you find yourself in a position where you are promoting or presenting this as an opportunity to those clients, and then they understand that it's in their best interest? Or how does that conversation play out?
Well, a lot of the larger corporations we work with now have sustainability initiatives and they have targets and goals that they want to hit. They haven't often thought that much about how promotional products, marketing materials, items that they give to their new hires, et cetera, affects that number that they're shooting for. So a lot of times what we do is just introduce it in our monthly meetings with clients. Like, here's a few options that are more sustainable in these product lines. And it really a lot of times just resonates with them because many times their companies are working towards a more sustainable and equitable future. And if they can hit that target, even with the items they're buying to give away or that they're putting in a box and sending to new hires, it's not only a look good for them with their, their sort of direct supervisors, but it really does help their companies achieve the goal across all departments and, and sort of all industries that they're working with, not just their primary vendors. So a lot of times just a light will come on if we're showing people items in a meeting, or we oftentimes send out decks and we feature things on our website that make sense as far as that sustainability goal. And our goal is to become the most sustainable promotional products vendor in the world. That's our goal. And sustainability measured not just by eco-friendly stats, but really also measuring by what we're doing in our community to sustain jobs, to sustain support and a foundation for our employees to be able to operate in a way that is comfortable for them, that they're not living paycheck to paycheck, that they're not looking for, a way to supplement their income, that they're able to do that through working with us and bring that kind of additional money and salary into their communities by spending money with, their local restaurants and grocery stores and having that tax base improve their communities. So it's sustainability. The way that we look at it is often more than just the idea that you're going to buy something that's going to last a lifetime and is a really quality product and it's not going to end up in landfill. What we need to be really focusing our attention on is how are we sustaining the people that are directly affected by the business that we have in the neighborhood that we're in. For example, we're in the Bayview in San Francisco. It's gone through a lot of changes over the last 20 years, but there's a lot of opportunity here to assist in the local community around giving people higher paying jobs and allowing them to grow in their careers, giving them that real bedrock of foundation to be able to operate without the fear of how are they going to make rent or, et cetera. So it's an opportunity for any employer really at any level, if you're going to hire people, to hire within your local community and make sure that they're getting an opportunity to, to get back to where they live.
No, that's really well said. What do you think is your best skill? What is your like superpower?
I'm a connector, so I tend to at times at risk of my own sanity try to connect different organizations and different people to the right partners. And my wife always jokes, if you could monetize that, that would be great. But I want to see, I really truly believe in the idea that that all people deserve to be successful in whatever their endeavors are. And the more that I can support that, the better I feel about myself. So connecting people with opportunity, connecting people with other individuals or organizations that are going to help them in whatever their path is really a huge superpower for me. And I try not to burn bridges behind me. So the hope is that if I need to go back to somebody at some point and ask for a favor or for the same in return, that they're not, well, you didn't help me the way I wanted you to, or whatever, So that's one of them. The other thing is on the technical side, I understand really well how things work in terms of we don't operate screen printing machinery here anymore. We sold it to one of our neighbors and he's doing all of our printing now. It's because we needed to expand our warehouse. But I can run a screen printing press. I can actually repair them. So I can see things in 3 and 4D. Just I understand how things work.
That's
So
great.
yeah.
What's like a routine for you? What's a day in the life?
So right now, a lot of my work is revolving around, we just launched a new platform for social imprints that manages all of our orders, our projects, kind of puts everything in one place for us. So it's been working on that release to see, make sure that our employees are supported and they understand how to use our new product. And essentially it's a really amazing program that allows us to like end to end manage our relationships with a client on a project. So everything from, whether we need to send them samples or digital proofs or presentation with ideas, all the way through to the end of the order where we invoice the project. So that's been a huge part of my day. So I'm basically getting up, checking my emails and making sure that I'm following up with any open tickets and checking in with our employees. I guess roll that back. Before that, my day starts usually at 6 or 6:30 with my kids waking up, and me trying to avoid being the breakfast guy, and which I just got called out by my wife for. So I make a pretty strong cup of or a pretty strong press pot full of coffee and start my day with that and try to spend a few minutes if I have it to quietly reflect and do a little meditation if I can, and then it's off to the races. So what the biggest part of my day has just been managing these projects and following up with employees to make sure they have everything they need. We're also going through SOC 2 data compliance security audit right now. So I've been working on that with our developers, and it's been quite a project. We're wrapping up the first part of it right now, and so hoping to get a little bit of a breath from that. And I usually wrap up my day. We really try to have dinner all together, our whole family. So my wife and I have 2 kids at home, and we try to all sit at the dinner table and no devices and hang out and chat. And before we have an older daughter who will usually retire to her room and do homework or whatever. She likes audiobooks and she knits, and if she's not doing a million other things. But it's my day is really full with managing the team. I also help run a volunteer program in San Quentin here. It's in Marin County, doing resume writing and job interview skills workshops. It's really like more of a I don't like, it's really more of a job readiness program.
Yep.
It's 14 weeks for the guys. They come in and they have to be at all 14 weeks to get the certificate at the end. And it gives them the confidence to go after the job they want, not just the job that they think they should take. And so it's a great program called Prison to Employment Connection that I've been volunteering for almost 8 years. And I now help run the curriculums inside with an inside facilitator who's amazing, and hopefully will be returning home in the next couple of years. So been very involved with some organizations around reform. There's some excellent organizations in California trying to make changes to the, system. So it's been a great experience for me.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic work and gives us a good insight into how you structure your day and work, family,
Yeah.
giving. How do you, okay, $20 million, that's a significant number too.
Yep.
How do you get I mean, you started in '08
Mhm.
and you've seen the industry, evolve, I'm sure. But
Yes.
how do you get to the point? How do you get clients? How do you sell? How do you drive those relationships to, that magnitude where, they're coming to you and they're, you know, placing the product and you're doing your thing and printing and such. How do you do that?
How do we get to where we got?
How do you get to where you got? How do you market? How do you, is this something someone else could do? Is this something that is it a unique skill to be able to like meet the decision makers? Any insight into, how do you generate that type of relationship?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us is actually that word is very important, is relationship. And we generally work with our clients to try to figure out what their true needs are. And, just to be clear, the account management team here is really good at what they do. And I'm not the one to take credit for that. That has been just hard work and getting the right people in here. And I think it's important to note that our employees have kind of led a lot of that charge around how to kind of deal with clients and how to, maintain that relationship. And then my co-founder, Jeff, has been instrumental in driving this process of, how to discuss things with a client, how to get the information, not only that they have, but kind of beyond that, like to get to where they're telling us what they really need when they're doing a project, whether it's an event or just say they're just doing t-shirts for staff or whatever the product is, to kind of go beyond just the transactional. And I think a lot of distributors get into this kind of order taking mindset. I can't say that for our local, like very local competitors. And there's some other companies here in the Bay Area that are just phenomenal at doing creative for their clients, for making sure that they're keeping things fresh. And those are the kinds of things that are vital if you want to really continue to grow, is that you're showing people new things, that you're not just like being complacent and waiting for the phone to ring, and being kind of involved in steering their merchandise programs, not just being a facilitator, I guess. So our teams are really savvy around getting the information out of clients of what they really need and kind of suggesting things to make the process better, easier, more streamlined, and ultimately showing them what they really want, even if they're not totally sure at the beginning of a project. And that's one. And then we do a lot of follow up with surveys and just checking in with people. Our monthly meetings with clients are key. So if we've got bigger clients, to sit down with them at least once a month, show them our most current decks and things that we're excited about in terms of product. But I think really the ultimate goal is to really build that relationship. and have that trust. So, that's part of it. And then, honestly, hitting our heads a bunch on just trying different things that maybe don't work. We were way ahead of the curve on online stores. So that's a huge portion of our kind of appeal for clients, is having the ability to spin up an online store for them and be able to sell their products, give gift codes for their products, send out new hire kits for their new hires, etc. And we were already pretty good at it, but when COVID hit, we really had to pivot to that as like a more, primary part of our business, because we lost a ton of business on events that didn't happen, you know? And so
Or
moving
everything
to,
was locked down.
moving to virtual events and being able to drop ship directly to people's homes when they were working from home became key in our success over the last few years. But that's the other thing is stay teachable. Like, no one has all the answers, especially not in this industry. It's kind of it's all over the place. Everybody does things differently. I see there's more streamlining happening. And, when you look at some of the bigger companies that are getting into this space, the NetSuites and Oracles that are trying to build, for promotional products companies now, there's a lot of cool stuff happening. So there's opportunity for growth, and there's opportunity to really sort of change the industry around technology and how we interact with our clients as well.
And how does it look when you like, what are some of your larger like engagements? Like just so that the listeners get an idea, like what are some things like that you go all have worked on, or like what what's like the actual, activation look like?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of things. There's, a lot of our clients use us for all of their promotional products, as well as online stores, as well as leveraging the technology that we built that's proprietary for uh, online campaigns and other sort of gifting opportunities. So when we talk about our bigger clients, they'll use our services for everything from they're attending an event and they want booth gear for that event, to doing campaigns where we send a beautiful item out to every one of their employees for the holidays, where we are creating the item from scratch. So, and I'm always like a little hesitant to mention names because our clients get upset. I'm not, because there's enough business in this industry for everybody. It's not about like hiding who our clients are. I mean, they're on our website, but there's one company a couple of years ago did a totally custom blanket knitted for them with their pattern on it, and a totally custom hoodie. And they gave their employees each a choice that were participating in this event. So we not only had to get these things like ready to go in terms of sampling and ready for the delivery date, but we had to then work with them to get all the sizing in, collect the sizing if they were going with a sweatshirt, collect all these individual addresses for like 7,500 employees, and drop ship these custom items. So that's the kind of level of project that I feel like we really excel at here, and deliver in a meaningful way for our clients, because it's unique. It's an item they're never going to see again, and we're sending it straight to your address, beautifully packaged. So that's just one example. I think there's a lot of them. We've done a ton of kitting and custom items for our clients over the last few years, especially during COVID, when there was kind of a boom. There was like an economic boom going on as we stepped out of COVID and things started growing again. Companies were hiring. I know it's changed a lot, and I have personal experience with that because my wife was laid off in the first round of Salesforce layoffs.
Sorry to hear
So,
about that.
I mean, it happens, so things have changed. So we're having to pivot again. We're going to be attending more events again and getting our name out there. We can't just sit back and wait for the clients to come to us. So, but really our kind of target client is somebody that does a lot of events for, whether it's they show up and participate or they produce events, that they have a large client affiliate base where we can be sending stuff directly. So when somebody gets it and they see Social Imprints, they're like, next time they need to order something, they come to us. And the companies that are, in the 5 to 15,000 employee range has really become a sweeter spot for us. So, and because we really work intensively individually, there's only so many of those large projects we can take on at any given time. So training our employees on how to deal with that has been huge. And what Jeff's done for our kind of management team is he's created a directors program, a leadership program where he meets with all of the directors once a week, but also gives them, new projects and exercises to do to kind of boost their confidence and get them to the next level. He's hyper organized, and it allows him to kind of manage that teaching program, which was sort of the next step for us, right? We already had individuals that we were bringing in from marginalized and often discriminated against backgrounds. And so moving people up through the ranks and getting them essentially like a in-house like mini MBA on how to run their department was sort of the next step in many ways. And then beyond that, we're looking at partnering with City College of San Francisco to do like a training program here with their students that are in the business track classes. So, we're just continuing to look at opportunities to really engage our employees, and then in turn give our clients more trained, productive, and efficient account managers to work with. So it's really, taking those big projects also and analyzing where we went wrong in some of them, like we could have done this better, is always huge. So having those debriefs is really important.
And it's interesting you say you may go back out and start doing more events again, like attending them. When you do go to events, do you look at it with a professional eye, like we could have had here, we could have done this for that activation, and then
Yeah, absolutely.
what events will you see yourself going to?
So we're doing an HR event here in California in a couple months, or maybe May, so next month. There's a few other events. We traditionally have gone to South by Southwest, the tech part of South by Southwest, and done the trade show, which is a blast. We show up and we have like on-site screen printing. So we give out t-shirts throughout the events we go to, and that's what we're going to do when we're essentially buying booths at these events and showing up and showing off samples and screen printing and handing people items on the spot. So, but yes, I'm like, why weren't we printing those items? Or, I could have done this for you. You didn't have to do like, candy, let's do something that's not, doesn't have a throwaway wrapper, right? Um, but it's always, yeah, it's hard to go to things and not have a critical eye. My wife was actually, she did events and did VTO like placements for Salesforce. So she's always, when I send her photos, she's got a critical eye towards it too. So she helps me with like when we do in-house events, I'll have her help because then they just go over better. They're more organized and they're kind of, but yes, I definitely have a hard time when we go to trade shows and I see all these booths with all this swag and my response is we could have done that. We could have done it better.
That's
So,
fair.
but
Definitely empathize with that.
I'll say it again. There's plenty of work out there for all the distributors, whether you're a mom and pop working out of your home or you're Halo, right? I mean, there's so much work out there and there's just so much opportunity for growth that oftentimes we look at each other as competitors, but then when we all run into each other at in Las Vegas or at one of the ASI shows, there's a lot of hugs and handshakes and good to see you and back pats. So I would call it a friendly competitive industry. I've met some of the best people I've ever known working in promotional products, both from the supplier end and the distributor end, and people that I have lifetime friendships with. And so when we all get together, it's it's really fun, quite honestly. And I've gotten the great opportunity to speak at some of the local promotional products events. There's the Northern California, the PNAC, I think, is the local promotional products association, and PNAC, Commercial products in Northern California. I'll have to look it up. I'm there. I know there's a couple of people that are gonna get mad when they hear this because I couldn't remember, but PMANC. So yeah. So they have a great event every year. They've moved it around. They've done outdoor versions during COVID, and I got the great opportunity to speak on a panel talking about how we move the industry forward in terms of diversity, inclusion, and sustainability. And those kinds of things, I get invited because, we've been doing this for so long and we have such a unique model, and and it's um and it's really more an opportunity for me to see people that I haven't seen in a long time usually. Hold on, I got to turn this notification on. It's driving me insane.
World of notifications.
Um, so I don't even know how to turn it off. Okay, there we go. I think that turned it off. I don't even know. I don't know. I honestly just don't know how to do this.
It's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, so the industry, I think, needs some improvement in terms of how we manage certain aspects. And I've done a ton of interviews lately about especially diversity and inclusion. And, and I'm usually a pretty blunt guy. It's a very white industry, and we need a lot more people of color, and we need to attract that. We need to do a better job attracting individuals that don't look like us into this industry. And I'm not putting the onus on anyone but distributors and suppliers. We could do a better job, and we need to. And so, like I said, I've done a ton of this has been a huge talking point for me lately. And I just think that it's time to be more thoughtful. And how do we do that? I think we all need to have more discussions about it, as awkward as they may be.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to be awkward. It's okay to be not comfortable with the conversation. And it's okay to say that. Working in the prison system here, I get confronted with a lot of very awkward moments, and I get called out on things that I never even would have thought of, by primarily men, because I don't go into the women's system right now. But the idea that we have an opportunity to use what we have to better the lives of all of us in the community, that's part of where it comes from for me. And I was lucky enough to grow up in a house where my dad would go to pick up a bottle of wine for Thanksgiving and come back with, just random people from the liquor store because they didn't have anywhere to go on Thanksgiving. So I had, from an early age, we had people I didn't know in the house, but they needed a place to be, so I had kind of like that learning was embedded in my DNA, and so it's easy for me to say that, but I also have a lot of empathy when people struggle with these kinds of topics. These are difficult subjects to broach for many people, but if we don't start talking about it, nothing is ever going to change. And I think the conversation does not need to be contentious. I think it needs to be brought with empathy and safe, and people that can be more forward holding the space, right? So, but I think the industry as a whole could do a better job. And, I think like a lot of other industries, we've had, certain roles slightly, not slightly, but relegated. Like, when we had the screen printing shop, who are we hiring for screen printing versus who are we hiring for sales? It's a question that I would ask myself all the time. And just because we have to be able to ask those questions and give ourselves honest answers. So one of the things that I think, especially early on, Jeff did a really good job of, was making sure that people had a track for promotion. So if somebody came in as like a receiving clerk, that we would look at them with the opportunity to move them into purchasing, because they were the ones seeing and handling products on a daily basis. So they knew what products we were getting. They knew what vendors they were coming from. It was a perfect step up. So all of our purchasers started in the warehouse right now, every one of them. They started either receiving or being a warehouse clerk for the screen printing facility when we had it. And they were offered the opportunity to move into purchasing. And that's the kind of thing that I feel like we need to be more thoughtful about, because the natural next step from purchasing, which a couple of our employees have done, is move to account management. Because once you understand how and what we're purchasing, what artwork looks like, etc., it's a pretty easy step up to a junior account manager. So thinking about those things as we process, and it creates a really way more diverse workforce, just naturally. I mean, it's just as kind of a natural progression of how we've operated in here. And I don't have the answer to that. I'm not saying that this is the way every business should operate, but there are thoughtful ways at which to go about this to make sure that we're really thinking about the communities that we serve. So who lives in the community in proximity to your office, or who lives in the community in proximity to your warehouse, or who lives in the community in proximity to your supplier, and how do we involve them in, getting worked into our systems, promoting them from within. It's always sad when somebody leaves, but really that's got to be kind of our goal for them to find that if they're not going to stay here as a career, that golden ticket, right? That job that they really want. So there's just a lot of ways to look at this, and there's a lot of ways to think about how we can be better, so.
That's really good. And, we appreciate you for, just being able to connect with you all, over the past few years on some projects. And, I'm wondering how do you go about like sourcing, like looking and finding, brands and companies that you're going to
Yeah.
collaborate with when you do that?
Ooh, that has been, I will, and Nathan well, because you all have worked together on projects. Nathan is a master sourcer. I mean, I jokingly call people sorcerers in here sometimes, just as a kind of a joke around it. But really, he pushes me because he knows that I'm connected to a lot of companies that do fair chance employment and have diverse workforces, and he's always like, do they fit? Do they do a product that we can use? And so I think the biggest thing is keeping our eyes wide open when we come across somebody that is trying to get into the promotional products industry. Like, who are they? How do they fit one of our desired categories? Are they, women owned? Are they owned by BIPOC owned? Are they sustainable? Are they, and many times companies will check a bunch of those boxes, right? Do they give 1% back, or what's their stance on sustainability, or how are they sourcing their items? And so what tends to happen is people will kind of are attracted to us too. So we'll get an email, hey, have you seen my product? This is what I do, right? But we've collected all of this over the years and now have this massive catalog that we can pull from of vendors that fall into the categories that we want to buy from. And we want to encourage our customers to buy from our clients. So it's really been a work in process, and it's been sort of a pushing each other game. But I mean, if Nathan wants to find a specific vendor on a specific product that the client is asking for, he's like a nonstop machine. He will find that thing. And if he can't, he will pull in all the resources he needs to find it. And he's training his crew, because he's now our director of sales, to do the same kinds of things. And it's been a work in process though. And it's been, now our stuff is up, available online, our giant catalog of sustainable and, et cetera, owned businesses. So, people can just look at it if they want to. We used to kind of hide it, but it became impossible when we started getting interview requests from PPAI and Impressions Magazine. It was like, well, show us, so it became a little harder to kind of pretend like we didn't have a resource guide, because we wanted it to be sort of proprietary. But the fact of the matter is, you can't do that and also be claiming to want other companies to be sustainable. Like, if you got the advice, you got to kind of be able to give it a little bit, and and trust that your service is where it needs to be. So you're not going to have a lot of attrition around the clients. Um, but it's been a huge process. And, having 23 years in this industry, sourcing has always been one of my things too. And I love trying to find that right thing. I love it. It's like, it's almost like exciting when I find it's like finding the pot of gold, and
So behind,
especially with smaller companies that are like a $20,000 PO is going to make a major difference in their lives. When we did a huge project for one of our clients and they were very specific about who they wanted to use around, they wanted people that were using their product, but also met certain sort of parameters. And so we were able to hand out these purchase orders of like 50, $100,000. And it was insane, like the response. And they had to scale to deal with this influx of orders and did a really good job. But those are the kinds of things that I feel like are our responsibility as a business, to look for suppliers that are, smaller, that need that extra push, that are doing things in a way that meet their moral, their morality and their beliefs, and falling into their value systems, and then spend money with them. Do our best to spend money with them. So it's a win-win.
it's like you're making magic almost for some of
Well,
these.
that's the hope. I mean, because I know for us, when we were really like a young company, we were starting to get bigger orders from like Dropbox and Pinterest and, all these startups. And I mean, when we would get an order for like over 10K, everybody in the office would be like, woo, it was, yeah, felt like it was like Jerry Maguire, spinning around in our seats. And, but as those POs grew, being able to do the same for other companies. And we've had suppliers thank us for, this made a huge difference in my bottom line for this year. I was able to buy this piece of equipment because of it. I was able to hire this person because of it. And suppliers don't always come back with like, thank you for doing this, because a lot of times it's a pain in the ass because they have to scale up. But I mean, who doesn't want more business? As long as it's not going to kill you, see how it stretches your capacity so that you can do more the next time, right?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic testimonial there. What would you say to someone that wants to get into this field, whether it's they're coming in off the street and they're coming from a different industry, or if they want to expand and do more work within the promotional industry, but they don't have the contacts, they don't have the relationships? How would you advise them in order to, you know, kind of grow?
I think the biggest thing is, and we didn't do a great job of this at first, we got like our ASI number and our PPI number, but I don't think we leveraged the resources that well. So, trying to get the Vegas show is not that expensive to attend. It's free to attend. You just have to pay for your hotel and flights, and you can go cheap in Vegas and just take public transportation to the event if you need to. So I would say go to the shows, engage the associations. PPI and ASI have incredible resources, mind-blowing resources. And I can say in all honesty that we weren't great at leveraging those when we first started. And now I look at it and I'm like, oh, look at all this stuff we could be learning. So, dig in, check out look at other promotional products companies. And if you like what they're doing, if it's super creative, like a Brand Via or Canary or us, look at those things and come up with your own kinds of like little programs to do for potential clients. If you're interested in sales, just come up with, you don't need to like reinvent the wheel either. There's so much information out. There's so many good ways to get it. And, there's regional shows everywhere and they're often free to attend as well, as long as you're in the industry. And then if you're working for a bigger company, find a mentor in that company, find somebody that you get along with well, that's been in the industry a while, and ask them if you can just like learn from them. Mentorship is a very unused resource in this country. It's not kind of written into our social contract, like it is in the EU, where mentorship is a huge thing. Apprenticeship is a huge thing. It's a huge part of what they do. Paid apprenticeships, mentorships. and I think we missed the boat on apprenticeships are getting bigger, but it's still like, if you look at the overall workforce, only like 5% of the workforce has been through a paid apprenticeship, and there's tons of them out there. And those are the opportunities to kind of learn and grow. And, I think that we really missed the boat. We've got that like rugged individualism. It's kind of like sort of like built into being from the United States, and I think to our detriment, people don't take advantage of the experts that they have around them in a really meaningful way. And I'm guilty of it. I think I'll just do it myself. I'll figure it out, and after so many times of hitting your head, it becomes impossible to sort of move along with that process. So
That's really good. This has been great, Kevin, having your expertise and sharing your insight. I definitely I feel like we need to do a follow up on this and just do like another episode because I know you're a
anytime.
wealth of knowledge. Um, what would you like to see happen maybe you seem really visionary, like you kind of see things before they happen. What do you want to happen in the next, let's say, like 5 years that, you'll look back and say, this is what we accomplished. We brought a certain part of the population into this business, or, we were able to create this type of impact with sustainability. What do you see for the future?
Well, I think the definitely seeing more diversity in the promotional products industry is like, it's it's not just a wish list item. It's mandatory. We need to make some changes. And I'll leave that at that. I'm not going to get into, I'm not going to get into something that's going to set off a debate. We just need to be better about it. It's plain and simple. On the sustainability end, I would love to see more development in technology around print on demand. And I feel like apparel's finally there, like with the Cornette machines and the machines that are doing these incredible prints that you can, that feel good, and it's not like that old, like you gotta pre-treat everything. And these machines are incredible, they're incredibly expensive too. So I'd love to see like the pricing even out on them as well. But really leveraging technology to not have to hold like massive amounts of inventory. And I know that's a hard sell for a lot of us because we make money on buying that inventory up front. And but if we're really being true to like goals around sustainability and really being thoughtful about our planet, wouldn't it be better to move towards a more print on demand model for a lot of our clients? And but how do then on the business side of things, how do we as an industry monetize that in a way that makes sense? Because they're probably going to move the same amount of units. It's just going to be not a big lump sum up front, right? So they may have times in the year where they get 300 orders in a week for an item because they're doing an event or whatever. But and then inventory the items that really need to be inventoried, or print for bigger events where you need to hand something out, but try to be mindful of how close you can cut the delivery date so that it gets to the event on time, so that you're just printing what needs to be printed.
No, I think that's really awesome. That's great. Um, Thank you again for doing this. Where can, if someone's inspired and they want to, contact you all to inquire about a project or anything else, where can they find you?
Socialimprints.com, and where we've got our contact information all over the site, forms to fill out, people to reach out to. If you're a new client and you haven't worked with us before, just email Rachel at socialimprints.com. She's our business development director, and she's stellar. She will point you in the right direction. Even if it's not something she works on directly, she will get you the right account manager. She's doing a great job onboarding our new clients. So reach out to her. If you're an existing customer and you want to expand your business with us, feel free. You can also reach out to Rachel, Amanda at socialimprints.com, or Nathan, our sales director or director of sales. If you've got questions about kind of what we do from the mission side, Kevin at socialimprints.com. I'm available to talk about, these topics and more if needed. And just go easy is what I like to tell people. Be well, try to take care of yourselves. Um, and hopefully if you have questions, just feel free, reach out. I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you again for doing this episode.
My pleasure. My pleasure.